Bleach Rebirth of Souls has been out for about a week now, and I've genuinely been having more fun the more time has gone on with this game. And after having spent over a couple dozen hours with the game, I figured it's time to make a beginner tips video. I'm not here to trick you guys. This isn't going to be an in-depth combat breakdown on how to win every single fight. This ain't going to be that. This is just if you're new to the game, or even if you're not, but you're still confused about some things, here are 10 tips that the game does not tell you. So number 1, and this had to be number 1. For God's sakes, change your controls to advanced. In standard controls, if you keep clicking square or triangle after a combo, it'll force you to use a Hakugeki move, which is this red attack that every character has, usually performed with R2. Whereas on advanced, it doesn't do that and you have full control over when you press it. You can still perform sick combos with standard controls. I've heard some people say you can't. That's not true, you can. But you have to be careful to not over-click square or triangle, otherwise your opponent will get sent flying. So honestly, I see absolutely no reason to not use advanced controls. It's literally the same, just with control over when to use your Hakugeki move. But if you really just want to play the game pressing one button the whole time over and over, by all means use standard controls. Number 2. If you find the constant voice of the in-game announcer every 5 seconds annoying like I do, the one thing before this game came out that I was worried would get on my nerves, you can change the battle system voice to partially on in the settings and it's way better. He only really talks when the fight ends on that setting. My third point is to always play in room match. Now there's no ranked in the game yet at the time of this recording, there's only free play and room match. One big issue I had with free play personally was the timer felt too short. Like half of my matches ended due to time, which is not how you want a match to end. In room match you can increase the timer up to 7 minutes or you can decrease it to 3 minutes if you want to never finish a match. And I haven't had a single match end due to time in there with the 7-minute setting. You can also set your own stage and soul crystal or spirit talisman conditions just like in free play. But unlike free play, you can change your fighter while somebody is in the room with you. So if you see a bankai ichigo, you can switch to somebody who's more suitable for that overpowered bastard, or just kick him out of the lobby. From my experience, the connection is also better in room match, though I only played free play the first couple days, so maybe it's because they've improved it overall for the game, I'm not sure. The only drawback to this mode is you can't train whilst waiting for an opponent. And speaking of bankai ichigo, my next point is if you've been playing online and getting your ass beat by bankai ichigo over and over, and you want to join the dark side, you have to complete the story to get in. And whilst yes, the story mode is like a couple dozen hours long, no kidding, you can just skip the cutscenes and beat it in a couple hours. It's really not that long in terms of the fights alone. And that leads into my next point, which is if you're struggling with the story mode fights, or with the conditions to achieve the real moments for extra cutscenes, you can equip soul crystals, which can be bought through the shop to give your character buffs in battle. The further you get in the story, the more soul crystals and spirit talismans you unlock. Spirit talismans are one use only, however, so they have to be equipped every fight. Soul crystals can be equipped in the play menu, which is reached by tapping the pad on the PlayStation controller, and they can give you buffs to defense, to attack, to health, stuff like that. And you can level them up to give you even bigger buffs by using fragments, which are earned through the story or bought in the shop, and with soul points, which are earned from playing the story and doing missions. Now on to my 6th and longest point by far in this video. There are a lot of gauges in this game, and I can't be the only one who was confused by them when I started playing. Yes, the game does break them down, but I still found myself a little confused after the tutorial, so let me take a crack at it to make it even simpler for you guys. So let's start from the top and work our way down. First, we have this number and a certain amount of bars. This is your konpaku. Basically, let's just say that's how many life points you have. Most characters have 9. In order to decrease that number to 0, which is how you win, you have to decrease your opponent's other health bar, which is right below it, called reishi. This is what takes damage during the fight. Though the reishi bars all look the same length, not every character has the same amount. So the same combo on 2 different characters could deplete a different amount of the reishi bar for each of them. When the bar reaches this marked 30% point or lower, and you hit them with your red Hakugeki attack, you can land a Kikon move, which is this cinematic move that every character has that depletes a certain amount of your opponent's konpaku. The amount of konpaku you deplete is different for every character, but at the beginning of the fight it's typically 2 bars. However, if you get them to 0% reishi first, meaning you deplete the bar completely, they'll enter a soul break and you can destroy typically 1 more konpaku than if you hit them with your special move at 1 to 30% health. The opponent's reishi will then reset to max, but their konpaku or life points will be lower. And as the fight goes on and characters awaken, they'll gain access to even stronger moves that can destroy 4, 5, or even 6 konpaku with 1 special attack. Speaking of awakening, the little bar next to the reishi and below the character names is your spirit drive. This increases through both landing attacks and taking damage, and activating the reverse gauge, which I'll get to later, increases it very quickly. And when the bar fills up, you can enter an awakening state. Once awakened, this bar can fill up an extra 2 times, and when it's maxed out you reach Spirit Drive state, where your attacks become even stronger. Now in this Spirit Drive state, there are 4 characters that can reawaken, those being Aizen, Ukiura, Uryu, and Bankai Ichigo only when he's killed. If the bar was full when he died, he'll reawaken with 2 Konpaku. Now let's move on to the bottom of the screen with the yellow gauge called the Spiritual Pressure Gauge, which maxes out at 150 for every character. This is what is used to perform spiritual pressure moves, of which each character has 2, one that costs 50 and one that costs 100. They all perform different things. Some are good combo finishers, others are counters, others are buffs, and so on. This bar starts at 0 in the fight and increases through landing attacks or getting hit, which includes blocking, typically increasing by about 1 or 2 points per hit, though activating the reverse gauge can increase it even quicker. Side note, some characters like Coyote Stark have a signature move that increases it on command by charging it. And lastly, speaking of the reverse gauge, the final white gauge at the bottom that says reverse next to it. At the start of battle, everyone starts with it filled out at 2 bars, and once awakened it can go up to 3 bars maximum. It can do one of 2 things. You can flash step with it by pressing L2 and X on PlayStation or left trigger and A on Xbox, costing 1 bar, which teleports you right to your opponent, and it can also serve as a combo extender. And if you time it right, you'll trigger a counter that you can combo off of. Or at 2 bars or more, you can activate reverse action with L2 and square on PlayStation or left trigger and X on Xbox, which can be used in one of 3 ways. In a neutral standing state, when you activate reverse gauge, it will boost your spiritual pressure at a constant pace regardless of whether any attacks are being landed or not. In the middle of a combo, it can be used as a combo extender. Though not everything can be extended, and it's even less forgiving in awakening mode, so you have to know your character to know what it can extend. It also gives you an instant boost in your spiritual pressure gauge when it's used this way. And lastly, it can be used when being hit to send your opponent flying away, also giving you an instant boost in spiritual pressure when it's used this way. Additionally, whichever way the reverse gauge is used, even though flash step still costs a bar, it can be used even when the gauge is just about to empty. So if you're below a bar, you can still use flash step when the reverse gauge is active. There's no way to speed up refilling the reverse gauge. It takes about 40 seconds for 1 bar to fill up on its own, though when getting attacked it staggers a bit, so it can technically take longer than a minute to refill if you're getting absolutely dummied. So I hope I explained all the bars well there. If I did, like the video, it would mean the world to me. Subscribe if you're new for more Bleach Rebirth of Souls content, and let's just get to the next point. So my 7th point might mean nothing to you, but if you were also initially confused when you see the strike back thing pop up on your screen, and you think the game is telling you to strike back and that you have a window to attack, it's not. That just pops up when both characters use an attack at the same time, and the one who gets priority in the exchange or lands their attack first gets the strike back prompt. That might have been a completely useless tip, but I was confused by it, and at the beginning of the game I kept trying to attack when I would see that prompt, and it just led to me getting hit even more. My 8th point is to spend some time in training mode. Every character plays differently. Honestly, a simple 10 minutes in training mode before you try a new character can really help you out. Because if you switch from playing Yoruichi to Shunsui or something like that, you'll find it very difficult to adjust on the fly and you'll get very frustrated. Not every character combo is the same, but everybody has their basic square and triangle combos that the game teaches you as soon as you boot it up. Though that ain't enough to win most fights, so you're gonna want to spend some time learning your character's individual combos. I'm working on a character guide right now. I've learned about half the characters in the game at this point, so stay tuned for that to learn a little bit more about who you'd maybe want to main. My 9th point is that mastering distance is key. If you can judge distance in this game, you're gonna do very well. And that means also knowing what your opponent's distance is, not just your own character. Some have attacks that can reach the whole map, others only really right in front of them, and some characters have both of these types of attacks, so it's important to be aware of that. Also, unlike some other fighting games, sidestepping at close range has its uses here, but it's not as optimal, at least not in my experience so far. Sidestepping is best used from afar to dodge long range attacks, but at close range, you can extend combos with it, and it's still pretty easy to hit somebody sidestepping right in front of you. And even if you sidestep around somebody who's blocking and hit them from behind, they'll still block you, so it doesn't even give you an advantage in that regard. My last point is really just to round out the list so I can reach that pretty number 10, because I wasn't going to do any character specific tips in here, but I felt compelled to say this one. Stop standing outside Shunsui's circle when he uses his children's game Awakening. I know it looks all pink and scary, but you just lose health when you stand outside of it, and anybody who stands inside it gains spirit drive quicker. I hope a lot of people see this video just for this reason. Even though it's pretty hilarious to watch people melt their health away for free, it's time to put a stop to it. Like, just look at this Soifon. What is she doing? She's just losing health and doesn't even notice that half her health is gone. Melted. Well, those are my 10 beginner tips that the game does not tell you. I hope at least a couple of these were helpful to you. If they were, like I said before, like the video, it would mean so much to me. Subscribe if you're new, because Bleach Rebirth of Souls content will continue coming on this channel. I also do Dragon Ball games and stuff if you like that. Anyways, stay tuned for that character guide. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you so much. Take it easy, and peace.